When it comes to American superheroes, there's no shortage to choose from. Batman, Spider-Man and Wonder Woman are just some of the famous comic strip crusaders waiting in the wings to save the planet. But there's one very British cartoon hero who could give them all a run for their money. And as Simon O'Brien has been finding out, he comes from here in the Northwest.
7 years ago, a strange vessel crashed near the military base in Lancashire. It was packed with technology we simply couldn't understand. Way beyond anything human.
You're telling me aliens landed in Lancashire?
Forget Doctor Who and the Daleks, Luke Skywalker and Star Wars. Before all of them, there was a real hero who hailed from planet Earth. A very British hero, and he came from Southport, to be exact. Dan Dare. Dan Dare, pilot of the future, rocketed into children's imaginations in the 1950s with the publication of a new comic called The Eagle. The brainchild of Southport vicar Marcus Morris, The Eagle was his attempt to counter what he believed to be the threat posed to children's morals from American comics. Designed to entertain and educate, the underlying ethos of the comic strips and stories was Christian. Even the comic's iconic name, The Eagle, is believed to have been inspired by the ornate brass eagle on the lectern of the Reverend Morris's church in Birkdale. But the front cover of The Eagle was always kept for Dan Dare. He was the main attraction, and every week fans would eagerly anticipate his latest adventure as he fought against the evil Mekon. Peter, here it is before us. A great influence on my childhood, but literally your childhood.
Yes, indeed, yes. Yeah, we lived over the shop.
I've come to the Atkinson Arts Centre in Southport to find out more about the town's famous superhero. And who better to explain more about the origins of Dan Dare than the son of his famous Manchester-born creator, Frank Hampson. So Reverend Morris has worries about the moralities coming from over the pond.
That's right, yeah.
and decides to do something about it.
Yeah, originally it was going to be a sort of streetwise vicar called Lex Christian, but that didn't quite take off, and they wanted to have something that had more scope. And so the idea of putting him into space came up. My dad, with the help of a couple of other artists, put together a dummy of the comic that they decided they wanted to do. Marcus Morris took the dummy comic down to London, went to Hulton Press. They sent a telegram saying, don't give this to anyone else. And basically that's how it started. It went from nothing to huge success almost overnight.
I had to write it in order to draw it. And at the very beginning, I also had to cope with other strips as well, which meant that I had to get help from my friends and art students in Southport as rapidly as possible and set up a studio to produce as much as I could produce each week.
Dan Dare's space adventures were the main reason for the appeal to its young readership. The idea of future space travel fired their imaginations.
In a last desperate attempt to escape defeat, German science threw everything it had into the perfection of V2.
But it was rocket technology of another kind that had previously captured the attention of Frank Hampson during the war.
This was the peak of 15 years of German scientific research.
After D-Day, went up through Northern Europe and saw in the distance the vapour trails of the V2 rockets taking off, and as he said at the time, that was really the sort of birth of space travel.
And it really was a huge success. During the 1950s, the Eagle's sales rocketed and production of the magazine moved to new studios in Surrey.
And here are some of the ways that artist Frank Hampson captures the realistic atmosphere in his famous Dan Dare strip.
You appear, I'm guessing, age about 10 in a Pathé film about the creator of Dan Dare, your dad, and there you are, hanging around the studio with the Mekon. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it is a bit of a cliche, but it seemed normal at the time that we lived on the top floor and underneath were 6 or 7 artists. I used to go down. I was probably a pain to them, although they were always very kind to me. But I was used, so I did sort of pay my way. I was used as a model. I was Flamer Spry, the space cadet, yes, with the flaming red hair. We used to play with the toys, well, not the toys, the studio reference, the guns, the pistols around the garden, yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, we did, yeah. Shoot each other with ray guns.
So the artist looks up, where's the spaceship gone?
Peter.
Bring it back. That's amazing.
The reason that we wanted to add these...
The museum recently acquired some of Frank Hampson's original artwork. It's not on public display yet, but we were given the chance to see it.
And this is from 1947, so it had only been demobbed a very short time before this was created. And it's got that great dramatic angle, you know, with this figure falling out of the front of the picture and the whole thing tilted off to one side.
And then, of course, black and white becomes, just a short time later, this stuff, which is just brilliant.
Well, they're both from the first story, The Voyage to Venus, and they show, I suppose, that filmic approach that he had towards creating these strips. So you get lots of really exciting angles and points of view, you know.
There's these two chaps here having a bit of R&R on Venus.
Yeah.
You know, with the Venus Hawaiian shorts on. It's just great.
They become part of the permanent display in the museum, but we're also planning a big exhibition next year on Dan Dare.
The original Eagle ceased publication in 1969, although it was revived in the 80s for a new readership. But Dan Dare has never gone away. A new comic is coming out later this month. And last year, Dan Dare returned in the form of an audio drama.
So it is toxic. That's why Urgalux says her people usually avoid the fungus forest.
Not all mycotoxins are poisonous. Some can be quite useful.
In the Mekon's
Actor Ed Stoppard is Dan Dare.
We've kind of tried to update the stories and the character and the whole kind of feel of Dan Dare and make it feel a little more modern. So the originals are useful to an extent, but then there comes a point where you know, you're really relying on what the writers have given you, and thankfully, you know, they gave us these wonderfully detailed, fully fledged characters.
The Raylor. The ones in the next tank. It's not us.
For me, the sort of Saturday Adventure series of the 1930s and 1940s, and how Spielberg reinvented it for Indiana Jones. And I kind of feel that Dan Dare had a similar potential in terms of tone and that sort of daring do, but also that it was very relevant for today. We're in need of a hero, and I think Dan Dare was the personification of a hero we all need.
Dan Dare has come a long way since he was created for the Eagle. Frank Hampson died in 1985, and his son Peter has never seen the original studio where it all began. Hello.
Oh, wow.
Come on in, mate. Yeah. From here, an intergalactic empire was built. Come meet John, who knows all about it.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Peter?
Oh, yeah, it's extraordinary. It's extraordinary to think that it all started here. That is the original team outside the bakehouse here. It's my dad, Joan Porter, Bruce Cornwall, and Jocelyn Thomas.
It must have been hard work.
Yes, oh yes, it was. I mean, this is typical of the sort of reference material that he produced early on to make sure that the continuity all the way through the series. You say Dan Dare and pretty much everyone knows what you're talking about. And it's good to see that he's still being brought back for a new generation. And hopefully they'll enjoy his exploits as much as they did in the 1950s.
More humans will inevitably follow. Plenty of time to kill them later.
I bet that's taking you back. That's all from us for this week. Join us at the same time next Monday. Goodbye. Next week, why residents in New Ferry are still angry 6 months after their community was devastated by a gas explosion.
We're forgotten. We're left to get on with it ourselves, but we need help, and we need help now.
Hello, I'm Riz Latif with your